the Goliath and Leviathan Show.
I'm Goliath.
And I am Leviathan. And on episode 7, we're going to talk about white knights and cucks and how they destroy society. And basically, they're kind of like the stormtroopers of feminists that go out and act as trolls and basically lambast.
Yeah, so they're pretty much the male version of a feminist.
Pretty much. It's a cuck in the definition is a slang term for a weak, effeminate, or an inadequate man. And they vote pretty much against agendas that want to basically bring about real equality and balance and truth. A cuck's vote, a white knight's vote, is to praise a woman that have false rape allegations that actually allow real rape claims to be drowned out and ignored, and push the agenda that everything a feminist says is truth, and there's no lie in that. And if you disagree with anything, it's hate speech, and that you should be silenced and drowned out.
And also for, cucks, they'll say that they're, that they stand for one thing when they really don't. Like John McCain, for instance.
Yes.
He's a cuck. He voted against the skinny repeal on Obamacare, and he
Recently.
says that he's a conservative, but we all know he's really a rhino neocon.
He's a neocon, and the main thing is you stand against principles for yourself. It's more of a herd-like mentality.
Bill Nye the Science Guy, another cuck.
Yes.
I like saying that word and pointing out people that are ones.
It kind of got made a little bit famous around the MGTOW community, sort of able to determine, to differentiate between a man who stands up for himself and is willing to go his own way and say, what's right and what's wrong, and let's look at facts and reason and let's have a debate, compared to a man who doesn't want to have a debate, who only wants to shout, who doesn't want to talk, who doesn't want to listen, who doesn't want to look at actual statistics, who only agrees with an agenda or a narrative pushed from whether it's the mainstream media, pushed from politics, or from the left. So I will read a quote from a very famous Roman philosopher, and this is a long time ago. Towards the end of the Roman era, of the height of the basically leading to the downfall of Rome, and this is a quote by Marcus Tullius Cicero, and I quote: "A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gate is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely, his sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. For the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in accents familiar to his victims, and he wears their face and their arguments. He appeals to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to fear." And this is very reminiscent of what's going on in the West, in society today, from the collapse of the Roman Empire. And that was a long time ago. And how they say that history tends to repeat itself, Mark Twain quoted that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. It has
similar things.
Similar things. And you look at what was going on then to now, there were a lot of people that were pushing an agenda. There's multiple reasons you could look at how Rome fell apart. Okay, the collapse of Rome. And that could be a very long topic. You can look at all kinds of various statistics and how their borders were wide open and how their military was used. And basically they spent themselves. They spent money. They encouraged a massive debt on their citizens. And the system within itself, it could no longer function. It could no longer support itself. And basically what Marcus Tullius Cicero was warning about, it wasn't so much the barbarians or the Huns out there. It's not so much that you have to worry about the terrorists or the threats of going on outside of the borders. It's what's going on within your borders. that you have to worry about. People that want to...
People that are trying to destroy the country, like, on purpose when they pretend that they're working for the country.
Right.
Like we said, John McCain, Bernie Sanders is another one.
He's a socialist.
Socialist. You have Antifa, for instance. All the Antifa protesters, they're all cucks.
Yes.
They're all cucks because they're pretending that they're anti-fascist when really they are fascists.
They're the brown shirts.
Yes.
They don't listen to truth. They don't want people to have any platform of speaking their mind like what Goliath and me are doing. It's about attacking and with violence, a vehement, very virile type of hatred of spewing out any sort of attack that can be given on anybody that it disagrees with an agenda, and it's a Borg mentality. It's white knights. It's you're willing to sacrifice yourself at all costs to betterment of the feminist society, and you're not helping solve the problem, even though you think you are. You're actually causing its own downfall from within.
Yep, all the media. All the cucks in the media, Trevor Noah, Stephen Colbert, John Oliver.
I used to like Stephen Colbert, but he used to have a balance, and he used to be sort of in the middle. I mean, there was always...
Because this is the millennial generation that they're picking up watching these guys.
Yes.
They're watching these shows that are nothing but garbage and have no facts. It's just they're rambling on about their opinions and... You know how Trump is bad, pretty much, and
I mean,
it's nonsense.
We talk about our opinions on things, on what's going on as well, but the difference is, it's like we're willing to actually debate and are willing to have an open discussion for things. And if you look at with a lot of the mentality from the left, there is no discussion. There is no open platform for a debate. A lot of platforms are actually being shut down.
You can't debate them. You can't. That's the thing. Back in the day, you could have debates on different opinions. Nowadays, they call you a racist or anything else. Bernie Sanders had a quote where he said, "We, meaning the United States of America, we're the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people as a right. But also, we're the only country which is number one in medical research, innovations, cures, Nobel Prizes, survival rates. Maybe we're onto something, Bernie."
Yeah, it's capitalism.
Just to say capitalism, but also just why he's a cuck.
Yeah.
That's to what we're talking about. It's again, they have no thought into what they're saying. They just try to push a narrative that isn't true, and they have millions of people obviously that support them because they're sheep, and it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, even if you look at again with Bernie Sanders, he praised Venezuela for a long time.
Praised Venezuela.
And look at what's going on down there now. And it's a tragedy. It's an absolute travesty.
And who else did they praise when he died?
They praised Castro.
Last year when he passed away.
A communist. Not just a socialist, an actual full-blown communist who murdered his own people. He's a murderer, a mass murderer with genocide, and people like to say, like with Michael Moore and other big wigs on the left, that they like to claim that he's is open. Michael Moore is another creature from like the depths of somewhere, from a Trigglypuff creature that you really try to have an understanding on things, and it's more of with white knighting and cucks. It's more of a bow down mentality. It's a bow down and take a knee and to circumvent the real things happening to push an agenda. And the agenda that's being pushed is not to help you as an individual. It's not to help the country or a state. It's about pushing out of destruction, of self-mutilation, of basically destroying any sort of principles you as a man have, any sort of value of having your wealth, your resources, or just basically you're trying to betterment of your life. And cucks and white knights hate you because they would hate us. They hate us, which again, we're willing to debate things. So it's not that you can't offer differences of opinions.
Yeah, comment on our videos.
Yes,
and
of
we'll
course.
see your comments. We'll see your different perspective on what we have to say. And that's the thing. We can say what we want because this is our show. It's a free country. And, we're just stating our opinion on things.
Right. And again, we're going through topics and points. And and people can say, oh, calling somebody a cuck or a white knight is derogatory, and it's like, well, the very definition, as I just said, what a cuck is, it's for a weak, effeminate, or inadequate men that will do anything to destroy society, to destroy principles. And the principle that they want to have is to actually hold up a narrative, whatever the narrative is, without actual truth, without real truth.
Yeah, and that's why, speaking of cucks and everything, that's why I know that Donald Trump, our president, isn't a cuck. Because Thomas Paine has a quote from many, many years ago: "He who dares not offend cannot be honest."
Yeah.
And Donald Trump is honest.
He says it how it is.
He's not saying politically correct statements, and that's what I love about him, and that's why, he's definitely not a cuck.
Right. No, he's not willing to. Again,
he loves this country. He's standing up for this country. He wants to do what's right for this country. And people like all the cucks that are in this mainstream media are trying to beat him. They're trying to beat him. They're trying to get him away so they can get the cuck like they wanted Hillary or Bernie into office, and and so they can push their narrative.
And you need to have a form of dialogue. And with white knights, it's a form of destroying yourself. Again, it's of not allowing a balance or an equilibrium of what society can be, of how society can form. A real utopia is to actually have differences of opinion and to actually be able to negotiate and to find reason in things. And a lot of the things with if you look at Antifa, or they're not protesters, a lot of them are rioters. With the Louder with Crowder platform, they actually exposed this with Steven Crowder of what's going on and how violent the so-called protesters are. They're not protesters.
Yeah, and it's funny. Don't you notice? Go back like what was it, a month and a half, 2 months ago, about the flag. What is it? What was the flag that they banned, that they tore? The Confederate flag.
Oh, the Confederate flag. It's okay. It's okay.
And then now all of a sudden they do the kneeling with the American flag. It's like, what are they trying to take away next? This is all cucks that are trying to just take away what everything this country stood for and all the history that it had.
Mm-hmm. And again, you can have your differences of opinion, and there's multiple platforms to spread your ideas, and you should be more than willing to listen to differences of opinions, and we'll listen. We're open to discussion. So again, comment down below, spread the word on the links, look at on all the other channels, and this will wrap up for episode 7. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you around.